Convenience is killing us. It is killing us and making us lonelier. And don't get me wrong, I do love life's little conveniences. Who doesn't? Who doesn't like the 2-day delivery, the dinner with no dishes, an algorithm of the streaming sites that knows exactly what you want to watch? But I've begun to realize that under this capitalist society, these convenient options are very frequently false solutions. They may feel like nice shortcuts, but they are leading us down a very dark and lonely path. They're counterproductive. They drive larger and larger gaps, not just between the working class and the elites, but between you, me, and everyone around us. And it's all supercharged by this rise in AI. It's creating a world that feels increasingly empty, artificial, maybe even as far as dead. You may have heard of the dead internet theory. In a nutshell, it's the idea that organic human activity has been displaced online by bots, AI-generated content, and algorithmically manipulated search results. Some people describe the modern-day internet as a Potemkin village. This term originates from an 18th century Russian story. I saw online skepticism about how dramatized this story was, so just keep that in mind. It could be a little exaggerated. But essentially, in order to impress an empress and other foreign dignitaries, a guy named Grigory Potemkin was said to have built these fake portable villages along the river. And as the barge would float by, his men would come out into the town dressed as happy villagers and would pop out and essentially make it look like a thriving community. And the second the barge passed by, they would pack it all up and recreate it down the river. It was all a facade. And so frequently I find myself feeling that whenever I'm online. I feel it's a facade. Popular Mechanics called it an endless content factory driven by the engagement of solely digital entities. They reported that a 2025 review found over 1,000 news sites run almost entirely by bots. I don't want to say that human-made content is completely dying out, because obviously there's still so much of it, but it's hard to ignore how fake and bot content is starting to take over. And yes, this all does sound a little bit dramatic, but when I'm really looking at the news on a day-to-day basis in America, but also around the world, I'm seeing a future that looks scarily like Feed by N.T. Anderson, which if you've seen my videos, I've mentioned this book a million times over. And after I read it, it almost completely changed the way I use my devices. Before, I could almost ignore the voice in my head telling me that the doom scrolling and all these things that I was doing on my phone were not good for me. But after I read that, it was like shoved to the forefront of my mind. And so now I find myself, I'm on my phone a lot, but I'm like reading things. Me defending it, I don't know. But Feed is essentially a future dystopian world where computers, corporations, and technology have complete power. And the irony is thick, considering OpenAI CEO Sam Altman recently tweeted that he never took the dead internet theory seriously, which is wild considering his company is the number one suspect for this intense internet rot, which makes me believe he's just trying to rage bait. He doesn't believe that he knows exactly what's happening. In my opinion, allegedly. Seriously. And with AI, like, the urge to put a very complex question into the chatbot is strong. Like, I understand that sometimes it does explain really complex ideas in a very easier way, but doing your own research, well, obviously will be more time consuming. It will do so much more than an AI chatbot response could ever do. It would expose you to various viewpoints across the grid, improve reading comprehension, improve vocabulary. If you take handwritten notes, improve writing, yada, yada, yada. You know, like, it does so much. And also, unfortunately, I feel that people put questions into chatbots forgetting that they can give wrong answers. AI chatbots can be wrong because they are systems created by man with biases from these creators with their own thoughts and opinions. We're almost living in our own village where the villagers aren't real. And the scary part is, in my opinion, feel that some people prefer that. This brings me to the psychological engine that is driving all of this, essentially, which is our convenience bias. In modern times, we've completely shaken off collective responsibility in all ways, and people will not do something if they do not see it as convenient. And I am sure I have been guilty of this on numerous occasions. I am human who's only trying to do better type of thing. And I found it kind of interesting because I was trying to do some research just on the idea of collective responsibility in the sense of sacrificing a bit of your time, a bit of energy in order to support your community, support your neighbors, support your friends. But everything I was reading was referring to the idea of holding groups accountable for the actions of one, essentially, or collective responsibility for something that happened a long time ago. This is gonna be me spitballing a bit. In my opinion, all the definitions and descriptions I read were alluding to, no, don't blame today's white people for slavery, like we fixed racism, it doesn't exist anymore, like come on, don't blame us. Come on, like there are people still alive that have been impacted by slavery. But as I said, to me, collective responsibility is a responsibility to the community around you. It's you choosing to not litter, instead waiting till you get home to throw your trash away. Maybe a little cheesy, but we should see the people around us as our comrades. We should be looking out for one another. Earthly Education wrote on their Substack, whoever convinced society that it should be competitive rather than cooperative really screwed up a good thing. They continue on explaining how the term mutual aid is more modern, but the practice is so far from that. Like asking your neighbor for sugar. Genuine question. Have you ever bought something from Amazon that you could have gotten from a local store just because of the speed and the free shipping? And I know some things on Amazon do sell for a cheaper price. But then that leads me to my point of we as consumers almost have turned to being blissfully ignorant about the origins of what we're buying. How are they able to sell that thing for so cheap? And I'm not just talking about clothes. I'm talking about all the things bought on Amazon. As writer Bogdana points out, our desire for convenience is oftentimes stronger than our knowledge that we're supporting a company with bad practices. And there's companies like Amazon. People know that they're shady and they don't treat their employees well. People know this. This is a known thing. And they choose to continue shopping there. And I did it for a long time. I continued shopping on Amazon because it was convenient. And then my mom canceled her Amazon Prime subscription. Shout out Angie. And I haven't bought anything on Amazon since. I don't know. It's truly a bias. We are wired for this path of least resistance. Whatever makes our lives easier, we don't think about how it's affecting other people though. Obviously some may, but this ever-present desire to get things done quick and fast has a massive hidden cost. It's eradicating our community connections. Writer John Chung put it in some really good play on words from the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. He said, "Everything everywhere all at once has made your neighbor redundant." And let's go back to that sugar thing. Think about it. Whatever needs you have for food, for entertainment, for listening, forget your aunt, forget your neighbor. There's an app for that. There's a TikTok video offering you advice. You no longer need to call up your aunt for her apple pie recipe. You can just look one up online. Which obviously that's not a crime to look up an apple pie recipe online. I don't want to make it seem like I'm just shitting on everybody for looking at recipes online, but it's just something interesting to think about. There's a new shopping feature on ChatGPT. Just put in, where can I find the best pair of jeans, and they will get it for you instead of just searching it yourself. When it comes to purchasing and consuming, I feel as consumers we're wired for short-term wins rather than long-term. And again, I was doing this for a long time, I wasn't thinking about how that really cheap t-shirt, yeah, it's cute, but it's gonna last 3 washes. So yeah, you might have gotten it for $10, but if you had just spent $25, you would have gotten a shirt that would last you for years. Do you grab an Uber to the airport, or would your friend drop you off? Commentator J.P. Hill calls this the gigification of our economy. People having to work for DoorDash, for Instacart, Uber, Lyft, all of them. The whole conversation about how people are forced into those jobs, which are usually second or third jobs, in order to just get food on the table. Unfortunately, we are starting to become so reliant on this convenience that some people get so genuinely upset when they do not get what they want when they want it. And it's kind of baffling to me. Again, from commentator J.P. Hill, he says, under capitalism, the convenient options are increasingly false solutions that reinforce the broader system that steals our time and drains our wallets. We have all these wonderful conveniences, but did we ever sit and take the time to think if we should? And as these things become more convenient, it comes at the cost of human connection. And I just kind of want to be really clear with one thing. I am an introvert. I am introverted. My friends are at the club right now. I don't actually think they're at a club. They're just at a bar. They're at a bar right now. I don't want to go. I don't like going out like that, So I feel like I need to kind of hit that home, because I don't want people to think when they're watching these videos that I'm out sitting at my fence every night talking to the neighbors and doing all these things. I make these videos in order to, what's the word I'm thinking of right now? Motivates me to do these things, I'm okay, well, if I'm gonna sit here and say we need to be better about these things on this YouTube video, I need to do it too. And it motivates me to do it. It's kind of it's like an accountability thing, I don't know. But sorry, ramble halfway through the video. There's a secret ingredient that we've really engineered, because with convenience, we've really pushed any sort of friction out of our lives. I got that word from, again, John Chung's Substack article that he wrote. I have it linked down below. And I've been talking to all my friends about this idea of frictionless living since I read that. I said, holy crap, that's so real. That's such a good way to phrase that. He argues that it is precisely these pieces of friction in our lives that promote social ties and community building. And without that, society breaks down. It's those micro interactions, the small talk with your barista, the how's it going with the grocery store cashier at the Trader Joe's, helping a neighbor carry in their groceries. Just small little things create a really nice emotional boost. So instead of getting off on rage baiting people, let's get off on happiness baiting people. Come on, people, we can do it. We can do it. They're pretty tiny, unquantifiable moments that make your day. They remind you that you're a part of this community and that you're supported. What happened to being fun and nice simply to make somebody's day better? Social media is such an echo chamber. It's so easy to only see what you want and who you want, and to never be exposed to anything outside of that, And so when you combine that with your totally frictionless life, you don't see anybody, you don't interact with anybody that's not already been cleared in your mind as a friend. If you're strictly interacting with people online, you're missing everyone else. You're missing those pieces of friction, and you learn and grow so much from real life human interaction, because it's unpredictable. You don't know what's gonna happen, and that is what is scary. It's scary to not be able to control it, but we need to be able to give up a little bit of control. A Reddit user, Pickler, on the True Reddit page laid it out starkly. They said, digitally we are exposed only to who we want to be exposed to. We are not exposed to everyone else. Thus, we lose touch with what's going on in our vicinity, our community. This is how populists and propagandists have amassed so much power. It's like the situation of the ostrich with its head in the sand, who can now order takeout and has no reason anymore to pull his head out. Thus, our neighbors in trouble die alone. Foreign investors take over our neighborhoods and jack up our property values and rents, and ugliness like racism, homophobia, and misogyny are allowed to thrive once again. The book burning, banning, and censoring we're seeing once again is a side effect of this. This dysfunction in government at every level is part of this. And that's the end game of maximum convenience. A society of ostriches with their heads in the sand, dying alone. Which sounds really depressing and dramatic, but in my opinion, some of these elites, that is what they want. thankfully, the people hold the majority, and therefore they hold the power, in my opinion. So what do we do? Because we are at a point that we can't just completely unplug everything and go, no more technology. That's not realistic. And honestly, I'm making this video. Like, I make YouTube videos. Like, I don't want to go completely offline, you know? But the goal is to become far more intentional with the way we move. We cannot let ourselves be dragged around by the elites doing what they want us to do. We need to create an antithesis to this convenience bias. We need to come up with alternatives. And so I've started to try and implement this into my own life. And I feel like it's been pretty transformative. It's about consciously reintroducing good friction. Some examples: I go to a physical bookstore or a library. Even if it takes longer, or if I have to spend a few more dollars at the bookstore, which I don't even always buy stuff when I go in. I just sit and I'll read and see what I want to read in the future, you know? On top of that, if you go to a local bookstore, you're supporting a local business. And I mentioned the library. Make sure you are utilizing your community resources and you have a library card for wherever you live. I try to go to a local cafe now whenever I'm working on like my YouTube stuff rather than working at home, mainly because it's hard for me to work at home because I can't stay concentrated. But also it gets me out of the house. It gets me interacting with people. Whenever I go into this one coffee shop, I work as a barista part-time. I literally see like half of my regulars and I'm just like, oh my god, I know all your faces. I run errands on foot most of the time, so I'm able to see my neighborhood. I try and say hello to the people walking their dogs. I say good morning to the people I walk past to. And like I said, I'm very introverted. On top of that, with social anxiety. And so I understand that stuff can be very scary because it's very scary for me, and I'm still trying to warm myself up to it, I guess, to be less scared of doing it. But that's why we're in this together. And nobody's gonna be mad at you for saying hello or good morning. And if they are, I'm sorry, they're the weirdo. Also, for me, I low-key hate texting, so I call my friends instead of texting. And now I'm actually gonna try and write physical letters to them. Here's my first one that I'm gonna mail out in a couple days. So to my girl, if you're watching this, it's coming to you. And it was so fun writing that letter, guys. I put little doodles on it. I'm gonna add little arts and crafts into the envelope. I'm gonna make it so fun. When it comes to implementing these good friction moments into your life, it's really about choosing the slightly less convenient option, because that's often where life is. To quote Dr. Jacqueline Oates, a professor of psychology at Harvard, lonely people will often put up a protective shell that denies the need for human warmth and company. Consciously or not, they start to send out signals, telling other people to leave me by myself. I don't need you. Go away. And this system of maximum convenience is really just building that shell for us. It's telling us that we don't need anybody else, and we cannot let it isolate us. The dead internet, the Potemkin village, the loneliness epidemic, they're all symptoms of the same disease. Capitalism and greed. And the cure isn't a grand gesture, maybe. It's a lot of small, inconvenient choices that a real person needs to make in a real place with other real people. And while it could just be my echo chamber online, I do feel like I see a lot of younger generations starting to kind of talk about more of building community. They're starting to see the isolation, and humans are resilient. I feel a lot of people are starting to realize that this way of life is not nearly as fulfilling as it needs to be in order to survive, because humans are social creatures and we need socializing. A comment that I read under the JP Hill Substack really caught my eye. It said, poet and essayist Ross Gay said during a lecture they attended, "Isn't efficiency almost always at the cost of care?" So if you made it this far into this video, I'm challenging you to add more friction into your life. Pull your head out of the sand and go talk to your neighbor, because at the end of the day, your neighbor is going to be the one that would be there for you. if you needed something. During times of natural disasters, it's like pulling teeth to get government aid. And the people that are on the ground helping are grassroots organizations. The first responders are your friends, your neighbors, your families. Those are the people that look out for you. So my final tip is to get involved with mutual aid in your area, because this is not just a crisis response. Mutual aid should not be just for crisis. It could be a blueprint for a better world. Hopefully, a world where our solidarity is unbreakable.